Next on the news, nurses across New York brave the cold for the second week in a row as negotiations for better pay and staffing continue.
Fighting cold temperatures and work on freeze for thousands of nurses in New York City. I'm Jessica Easthope. That story's coming up.
Ice out! Ice out!
Anti-ICE protesters disrupt a church service in Minnesota. A Catholic leader from the North Star State speaking to both sides of the issue. Plus, his sermons live on in the hearts, minds, and souls of every American. Almost 60 years after his death, faithful in Brooklyn pews remember the teachings of a civil rights icon.
Parishioners from the Diocese of Brooklyn honor the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. at this church in Flatlands. I'm Katie Vasquez, and I'll have that story coming up.
I'm Christine Persichetti. Currents News starts right now. Thousands of New York City's nurses are on strike for a second consecutive week, demanding their hospitals treat them better. The healthcare workers are asking for their contracts to be renegotiated. But for now, they're on the picket lines. Currents News' Jessica Easthope is at Mount Sinai Hospital in Morningside Heights.
Christine, New York City is experiencing biting cold temperatures this week, but out here on the picket lines, these nurses at Mount Sinai Hospital in Morningside Heights say their work is on freeze until they can get a fair contract. Safer staffing practices, comprehensive health care, more protections against workplace violence, and better pay is what they're asking for. The Catholic nurses we spoke with here say this is a matter of human dignity for nurses and patients.
You know, if you were a family member, were to go to the hospital, God forbid, would you want your nurse to be taking care of 5 patients or 15 to 20 patients? Obviously, the answer is just 5.
As a Catholic, honestly, we were always taught that helping each other is, number one. We need a place where, God should be the center, but sometimes we don't feel that because of the harshness and hardship of the work.
We've had patients come and are yelling and screaming and swearing at us as we're trying to save their lives, and after we save their lives, colleagues on our unit kicked in the head and had to go on leave because they've been concussed so badly and had to see neurologists. It's got to stop. We love our jobs. We're called to do these professions. It's a calling, and we just want to take care of our patients, but we have to be able to do it safely.
Now, Christine, you can literally hear the support for these nurses out here. The nurses at Mount Sinai have already been to the negotiating table with hospital executives, but no agreement has been reached. They say they plan to be out here and on strike until they can get a fair contract that reflects their worth to the healthcare system. In Morningside Heights, Jessica Easthope, Currents News.
Anti-ICE protesters disrupted a church service in St. Paul, Minnesota on Sunday, and now the Department of Justice is investigating.
Ice out! Ice out!
The video posted online by Black Lives Matter Minnesota shows protesters entering City's church, where they say one of the pastors, David Easterwood, is acting director of the St. Paul ICE field office. He wasn't there during the protest. The Department of Justice has now opened a civil rights investigation. Demonstrators were also protesting the fatal shooting of Renee Good by an ICE officer earlier this month. Lawyers for Good's family are also pushing for an investigation.
Let's let an investigator get all the facts and ultimately a judge or jury determine.
The Trump administration has announced a standby order to deploy over 1,000 active duty soldiers to Minnesota in response to the ongoing anti-ICE protests. Bishop Robert Barron of Winona, Rochester, Minnesota, is also speaking out regarding the protests, releasing a statement online that says, in part, the Trump administration and ICE should limit themselves, at least for the time being, to rounding up undocumented people who have committed serious crimes. Political leaders should stop stirring up resentment against officers who are endeavoring to enforce the laws of the country, and protesters should cease interfering with the work of ICE. Venezuela's Maria Corina Machado is speaking about her meeting with Pope Leo XIV. The opposition leader discussing her talk with the Holy Father at the Heritage Foundation, a conservative think tank in Washington, last Friday.
It was a day that marked my life in a personal dimension. But also, I had a reassurance of the Holy Father that he knows very well what's going on in Venezuela. He knows what the Catholic Church is going through because of the persecution, pressure on our bishops and priests. And I believe that he's not only concerned but actively helping and supporting a peaceful transitional process to take place.
The Vatican Secretary of State, Cardinal Pietro Parolin, has also confirmed that he met with the U.S. ambassador to the Holy See to discuss a deal that would allow Nicolas Maduro to seek asylum in Russia. Ultimately, officials were unable to convince Mr. Maduro to accept the deal. The 2025 Jubilee Year of Hope is officially over, the Vatican permanently sealing the Holy Door of St. Peter. The Archpriest of St. Peter's, Cardinal Mauro Gambetti, presided over the private rite Friday evening. The staff, normally in charge of maintenance of the Basilica, created a brick wall inside the church to permanently seal the door. Before it was finished, a bronze box containing the official closing document, the coins minted during the Jubilee, and the keys to the Holy Door was placed inside. While the 2025 Jubilee is over, another Jubilee has already begun. The Holy Father has announced the special Jubilee Year of St. Francis, which will last until next year, January 10th, to mark the 800th anniversary of his death. As part of the celebration, faithful can receive plenary indulgences and be freed from the temporal punishment of their sins at any Franciscan parish or place of worship dedicated to the saint. Thousands honored the legacy of late civil rights leader Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on Monday, including the faithful in the Diocese of Brooklyn, who celebrated a mass to remember the Baptist minister. Currents News' Katie Vasquez reports from Flatlands.
It's been nearly 58 years, but Doreen Ullman remembers where she was when Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was laid to rest.
You know, those images still stay in my mind of the funeral mass.
And she believes his teachings are still relevant today.
Dr. King would be 97 years old, and I don't think that his legacy of freedom should be ignored, especially in times like these.
The slain civil rights activist was honored at St. Thomas Aquinas Church in Flatlands. Bishop Robert Brennan celebrated the Mass and says Dr. King's nonviolent approach and activism is something that should be admired.
A piece of working together in peaceful ways, and he accomplished more by doing that.
The homilist was Father Patrick Winbush of the Archdiocese of Newark. He was the first African-American man ordained in the Archdiocese in nearly 20 years.
It is a great honor to stand before you today.
During his homily, he called on the next generation to keep King's legacy alive.
I think his courage to stand up for the rights of African Americans back in that time period in the 1960s. I was insisting in my homily, especially to our young people, that they have to get out and fight for equality in our country and for the church as well, too, because they are the future.
And others in the pews echo that sentiment.
I think that he would be very happy as far as where we've progressed, but I think that he would think that we have a lot longer to go. We have so much more to do.
In Flatlands, Katie Vasquez, Currents News.
Bishops around the nation are encouraging you to pick up on Dr. King's legacy. The U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops releasing a statement that looked at one of Dr. King's past sermons called The Drum Major Instinct. As they tell the faithful, Dr. King's sermon encouraged people to be leaders in the priorities that Christ gave us: to feed the hungry, give drink to the thirsty, welcome the stranger, clothe the naked, care for the sick, and visit those in prison. Through the social service and charitable ministries of the Catholic Church, we strive to embody the gospel mandate at the local and community levels. Finally tonight, we celebrate a quarterback who's been bringing his faith to the end zone and is crediting that for a major win.
Mendoza weaves his way first and goal, diving toward the end zone. Touchdown!
That's Indiana University QB Fernando Mendoza going airborne in the college football national championship. The Catholic is known for bringing his faith to the football field, beginning interviews after victories with "Give all the glory to God" and giving credit to God's providence after he won the Heisman Trophy last month. But he didn't stop there. He also brought that award for the most outstanding player to the Hoosier Catholic campus minister, saying, "This church and you all are a major reason why this happened." Congrats to him and his team. That is this Currents News Update. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.